Welcome back. So in this lesson I'm going to show you two very basic things with Node. The first thing is just executing an actual JavaScript set right here, which is this guy. I have an x, a y, a set variable, and I put that x into, that's a 5 now, y is 6, I add them together, now it's set, and set is actually going to be 11, right? So I'm going to print that out. Now, normally you wouldn't be able to execute this just out of the box. You need some kind of runtime to run this JavaScript, and that's what Node is. So let me try and show you. If I write Node and I write test.js, or actually just test because it knows it's a JS file in the end there, so it just expects it. If I do enter here, it actually executes this code and prints out with the console log, it prints out 11. That's what Node is. JavaScript runtime. So I can actually execute complex code like for loops and stuff like that. Everything you can do in JavaScript, you can now do here. So I want to kind of show you, that was one thing. Now you know that we can execute simple JavaScript, but what if we want to start making something a bit more complex, like building a web server? That must be complex. And yes, you have to know a few things, but it's not that complex. The first thing you need to know is how to work with the NPM, the package management system for Node, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create something called package.json file. That's kind of the file that knows what you're dependent upon in your project. So think of it this way: when we make projects, we always depend on other projects. In C# we had the NuGet package library, right, where we were dependent on other third-party projects, and it's the same here. So if you write npm and init down here, init, it actually tries to create a package.json file, and so will Angular do for us later, so we might as well just talk about it. Now this file right here is going to explain to our Node setup right here what packages we need to run our application. I know this might be complex, but I'm going to show you anyway, so you might as well just stay along. Now it asked me a few questions. What do you want the name for your project? Let's just keep the default name. What version do you want? Let's just keep the default version. Description? No description. Do you want the test.js file to be your entry point? And yes, we do. That's the first file. That's the only file. Do you want the test command to run automatically testing? No, we don't want that. You want a Git repository right now? No, I'm just showing this off to people. Keywords? No keywords. Author? That could be a builder just to have it in there. License? There's no license. Is everything okay? Yes, everything's okay. So now I create a new file here, and if I just click here, you'll see a new file just popped up called package.json. Now that file is actually what I need to start explaining to my system if I have any dependencies. So I can now go and talk to NPM and start actually implementing and adding information to my code right here. And let me try and show you that, because what we're going to do the rest of the lesson is actually build a real web server locally on my machine. So I'm going back to NPM right here, going back to Node.js, and I'm going into, let me just go to the root of Node.js to show you. I'm in the home page. When I scroll down, I'm going into API docs, and I'm going into examples right here. If I could click the button, uses and examples, I'm going into the example right here, and there we go. Now we actually have an example of building a web server, and I'm going to grab all that code. We'll talk about it next lesson. I'm going to paste it all in here, and I'm going to save it, and now I actually have a web server. So after adding the code, you'll see that I have a few errors, and actually I know the errors is because I haven't installed this third-party library I have right here. Now this is the same as having a using statement inside C#. You don't have to worry too much about this because we're not going to use it that much. We're not going to build our own web server. I just want to show you the power of Node. That's kind of the goal of this lesson. So let's do an npm, meaning I'm going to install a package now from the package management system for Node. Install for explaining I want to install something, and then I just write the name up here, HTTP. I do an enter, and it'll now install this. Just go and grab it somewhere and paste it in, and now it should be available. HTTP, there we go. And let's try and do, just run this by writing node and test like before. Node test, it'll pop up like this, and now we actually have a web server running. Let's see if it works. Hello world, yay, it works. Now, this was not to be a smart ass or to show you guys how easy it is to actually make code in a few minutes. It was pretty much just to show you guys what Node can do. That's actually a real web server right there, and of course it's not perfect, but now you know how Node works. Node is very simple to use. You've just seen me try to use the NPM setup. You've seen me use a package system. Here is the package manager right here, the package.json file, and we've actually also downloaded a Node package right here that we needed. That's how simple it is. See you in the next lesson where we'll start installing Angular.